For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes,
You are.
that's the commitment we made. To keep alive the truth and honor of the Holocaust, horror of the Holocaust, honor those we lost. Sure. I was given a list here. Steve Holland of Reuters.
We're doing great. Killing. We got to honor the Holocaust. Joining me now, my friend Josh Hammer. He's the Newsweek opinion editor and host of the Josh Hammer Show. Josh, I know, look, it's funny. All this stuff is funny, but honestly, dude, it really does make us look terrible. What do these foreign countries think, friends and enemies alike, when the president goes overseas and does this, man?
Jesse, great to be with you as always. I mean, look, I'm running out of words at this point to describe the absolute train wreck, the just complete clown show that is this presidency. But the problem is, as you say, if Joe Biden were making these sort of misstatements of American law when it comes to Taiwan, if he were calling for Vladimir Putin to be deposed from power, which, by the way, just focusing on that one incident where he kind of veered off script, he was in Warsaw, Poland, speaking there in late March. Generations of Cold War presidents, going back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy, Eisenhower, Truman, all the Cold War presidents, they knew never to call for the Soviet Union then head to be deposed, because you're dealing here with a nuclear armed hegemon. So at this point, if this were 20 years ago, the Joe Biden of the 1990s, when he was a mid-career senator from Delaware, we might have been able to laugh it off. Oh, that's just Uncle Joe. He comes to a Thanksgiving dinner table, the gaffes, whatever. But it's really just not funny anymore. I mean, Jesse, you and I are red-blooded American patriots. This is not just profoundly embarrassing. It is getting profoundly dangerous. I mean, in that montage right there, he's risking getting us into war with Russia, potentially with China, obviously our arch geopolitical foe this century. What's happening there in Israel is how do you even describe that? The truth and honor of the Holocaust? I mean, is this David Duke talking? I mean, what is going on here right now? I mean, it's just really just disgusting stuff, Jesse.
It is, which brings us to the point. I mean, it's one thing for me to say, Josh, that I'm going to go have a cheeseburger tonight, but I don't want to go to that cheeseburger joint because it sucks. I have to have another cheeseburger joint. Josh, there's no backup. There's no one coming to save us. The backup is Vice President Dome, or maybe Rear Admiral Buttigieg for 2024, or Elizabeth Warren, or Bernie Sanders. I mean, there's no backup, right? Is there a backup?
No, of course not. I mean, that's the tragedy of this situation, is that our backup option, Kamala Harris, is literally less popular as far as her approval rating than Joe Biden, who is historically unpopular, has the lowest approval rating in the history of presidential opinion polling at this present juncture of a presidency. So, look, I mean, choose Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. It's kind of like choosing death by fire, death by tornado, earthquake, HIV, whatever. I mean, these are not particularly appealing options, but for sheer purposes of having someone who is less likely to veer off script in an international stage and let his or her tongue slip us into World War III, I would roll the dice probably with Kamala Harris until 2024. But these are obviously horrific options. And, as of now, Republicans are going to clean house this fall, and I hope they do. Yeah,
I mean, you can always trust Kamala Harris, though, with the slip of the tongue. Also, Joe Biden was caught himself in a little bit of hot water this weekend, fist-bumping MBS of Saudi Arabia and then getting snippy with reporters about it.
You regret the fist bump, Mr. President? Why don't you guys talk about something that matters? I'm happy to answer questions that matter.
Did it matter? What was the whole thing? I even heard there was some kind of hubbub about what kind of carpet. Joe Biden showed up on purple carpet, Trump showed up on red, Joe Biden fist bumped him. What are we supposed to make about all this, us ugly Americans, Josh?
I mean, it seems to me like they're trying to have it both ways on the visit to Saudi Arabia. So obviously, Joe Biden called the Saudis a pariah when he ran for president in 2020. I was very critical of him at the time. I actually think Saudi Arabia, whatever their problems may be, is actually a very important transactional ally when it comes to containing Iranian hegemony in the region. Like the Saudis had to sign off on Israel making peace with the UAE and Bahrain. So I actually tend to be pro-Saudi, not from like a moral standpoint. Obviously, it's a horrific Sharia regime, but just from a purely kind of transactional, kind of clear-headed, realist foreign policy perspective. But the Biden administration, they try to have it both ways here. So he went to Saudi Arabia, which was obviously a 180-degree total backtracking of his 2020-era campaign promises. But then they tried that he wouldn't do a full handshake. He would just do this weak little fist bump. And they said it was COVID, but it obviously wasn't COVID, because then he was shaking hands 2 days prior to that when he was in Israel. So again, Jesse, the whole thing is just a clown show. I mean, like, this White House is like remarkably incompetent, holding aside like whatever their wrong-headed views on the actual substance, on the actual policy, whatever. They have no idea what they're doing out there. It's a new disaster every day, ending and why. And obviously, at the end of the day, what he went to Saudi Arabia purportedly to achieve, which is to get them to commit to pumping more oil, he didn't even achieve that. So the whole trip just looks like he botched it every which way.